Hey, Rusty.
It's such a lawyer thing to me.
All right, there are empty seats. Please filter in if you want. This could, take till midnight. So if you want to be, sorry, Chris, it might take till midnight. All right, so there are seats up front. If you want to be brave enough to walk up front, please, please, please come on down, sit down.
Oh God, look at that.
I guess that was me officially calling the meeting to order. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to kind of go over the procedure, what I expect to happen tonight, and then we will start with the procedure that I'm hoping to happen tonight. And I want everybody to know that I am very, very, very glad that you're here, both for and against. This was kind of my brainchild on the fly, and I apologize to the city staff that I made work a lot because of this. This is not a normal procedure. We don't usually do these meetings for the council to appear for these public meetings, and I just felt like it was the right thing to do, and I'm glad that everybody came together to do it. Tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to have the staff present the history of the trail project. And when I first found out about this, I had no concept of what the history is. And hopefully we get caught up on that. Then we're going to have Olson and Associates talk about the procedure they've gone through and where they're at right now on the alternative routes for it. And then I'm going to give a chance for public comment. And we're going to talk about, we're going to let people talk. We didn't like how there was a 3-minute timer or a 5-minute timer, so I'm going to try my very best to let people talk. We're going to have the people speaking for the trail go first, because that's the order we always go in, for and then against. The city really, really, really wants me to do a timer, and I really, really, really don't want to do a timer. So my theory here is I'm going to let people talk, and I want you to say your piece. But if you get to the point where you're starting to say what other people have said, I'm going to start pushing a little bit and say, okay, this has been heard. So I want you to have time, but I also don't want you to repeat what the person in front of you said, or the person in front of them, or the person in front of them. So try to be succinct, try to state your piece, try not to repeat, and if you're here with a group and you want to appoint a person to speak for you, that's okay too. I've been told that kind of cuts down on the talking if there are people that appoint somebody to talk for their group. So with that, I would like to start with the staff presentation on the history of the trail project.
Can you hear me? Can everybody hear me? Okay, good. So I'll be brief because I know this is not exactly why everyone is here, but we wanted to give just a brief history on where the city started with the planning for this trail, how it came about, and the outreach that's been done since about 2004 was the first, what I would call conception of the trail. Go ahead, Chris, if you don't mind. In 2004, the city commissioned a transportation study which looked at all of the needs of the city for transportation, including pedestrian. That plan was then updated in 2006. So adopted by Planning and Zoning initially June 21, 2004, by City Council March 20th, 2006, or March 27th with the amended update in 2006. So just some notes of interest from that original study. And one of the goals outlined in that study, it states that it will be a goal to connect all of the trails on the east side of the city to Wilson's Creek Battlefield and the Ozark Greenways. And then it also went on further to identify as a project as being a greenway on both sides of Elm from Bailey to State Highway ZZ. There were a few public meetings held with that transportation study, and then you have also the public hearings included with the P&Z and the council meetings subsequent. Go ahead, Chris. This map is very rudimentary, so it's from 2004, so if everybody can envision 2004, we weren't quite as advanced as we are today, so I apologize for that. But you can see here that map laid out the greenways that were planned for the city, and the Shuyler Creek Trail extension is one of those. 2015, we did an update to the transportation study. Various public engagements were held in 2014. The study was finished in 2015. Just of interest, it identifies the Springfield Greene County Vision 2020, which also identifies an extensive network of trails in Greene County. And then also we reference in that study the OTO's Journey 2035, which also identifies Shuyler Creek as a priority trail project. These graphics are taken, go ahead, Chris, sorry. These graphics are taken from that study, so you can see here we've outlined, again, the Shuyler Creek Trail extension. The difference here is that a portion of the Shuyler Creek Trail is constructed, and that's the same portion that's constructed today. And then 2017, the city ran a ballot measure to do a capital improvement sales tax, and what that was a replacement of the stormwater sales tax that was in place. It was a 10-year sales tax set to sunset in 2027. Just notes of interest, in that measure, we promised the citizens that we would allocate $1.1 million for sidewalks and trail additions, including the Shuyler Creek Trail extension. And then the last one that I'll mention as far as a history and identification of need was the 2021 citizen survey, which included digital and mailed surveys to the citizens of Republic. We had 725 responses with that survey, and just notes of interest. Amongst the highest priorities of the city and in the top 3 in the identity of the city were longer connected trails, trails similar to the greenways, bike trails to Wilson's Creek Battlefield, and then a pathway to Wilson's Creek.
Thank you, Andrew. Good evening.
Good evening. Wait till he gets that pulled up. Can everybody hear me? I think there's an okay on the other screen. There you go. Awesome. Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Jonathan Pites, and I'm an engineer for Olson. We're working in partner with the City of Republic to evaluate the Shuyler Creek Trail extension. Today, just going to talk a little bit about some of the feedback that we heard from the first public meeting, as well as kind of walk through kind of where we are with this this new preferred alignment. And Andrew has already kind of talked a little bit about the history of the trail. I know the clicker's not quite working, but that's okay. So go ahead and go to the next slide. One more. Here we go. So at the first public meeting, we did hear some excellent feedback from everybody. We really appreciate everybody coming out. Some of the feedback that we heard was, maintenance of the trail, will be maintained by the Parks Department. Connectivity was also an important item of feedback. This trail is a regional trail. It'll connect Republic to ultimately to Springfield. The initial connection will be to Wilson's Creek Battlefield, and then also the Battlefield to the high school. And then that basically leaves about a 2-mile gap between the Shuyler Creek Trail and the Wilson's Creek Trail as well, which ultimately connects Republic all the way to Springfield, which is extremely beneficial. Another item that we heard a lot of feedback on was screening, kind of in the detention area. We looked at that, and there is some opportunity there for potential tree planting to kind of help with that. And then ultimately, safety was another big component. One of the things that we did, we took a look at some of the feedback about crossing at Farm Road 99, and so we went ahead and included a new underpass. We did look at some underpasses before, but then this is a new underpass as well. So a little bit about the preferred alignment. There's an existing trail easement along a portion of the corridor, basically from where the trail ends down to Elm or Farm Road 182. So through this section here, this is kind of a layout of what that preferred alignment will be. So within that drainage area, we've done everything that we can to kind of keep the trail within that existing easement. There is a portion, once it gets down to the Stony Brook subdivision, there's a detention basin, and the actual Shuyler Creek Trail kind of has more of a defined channel. And so you can kind of see that the trail actually goes around that channel. So in those areas is kind of where we were unable to keep it within that trail easement. And then also there's a clump of trees just adjacent to that as well. And we kind of wanted to keep the trail from impacting as many trees as possible. So we did kind of go outside of that easement. Another thing, as it goes to Elm Street, the trail will go kind of in front of the box culvert and kind of pictured there. And we did look at, could we take the trail under that box culvert? Long story short, it's not ideal. So basically what happens when you do that, you have to raise the road because the box has to get taller so people on bikes or people walking can make it through. Me, myself, I'm kind of short, so it doesn't need to be that tall. But basically in doing that, that's going to cause the road to be raised, which is greater impact to the surrounding area. We did look at, instead of raising the road, could we lower the box? No, we couldn't do that because basically the entire area south of this location is extremely flat, and so then we'd be basically creating a pond, and we didn't want to do that either. So ultimately that kind of led us to the alignment that we've got today that goes just directly in front of that drainage area, and then it'll continue along the north side of Elm there to Matson. I know that there's a couple of decorative walls through there. We won't be impacting those as well. And then as you continue on from Matson to Farm Road 99, we want to keep the trail on the north side. Now there are kind of throughout that corridor, there's about 3 other locations that we consider providing some type of crossing. There's 2 box culverts, and then obviously we looked at the at-grade crossing. So the first box culvert, was that possible? Yes, it was possible. Ultimately, it wasn't ideal, mainly because you are impacting more of the stream again and causing the road, some road improvements as well, and it just made kind of the cost a little bit more unbearable. Then the next crossing, which was the box culvert that's over there by Farm Road 99, it really didn't work because that box is really shallow today, and so raising the road again was not a preferred option. And then ultimately we did look at, or actually I guess we presented to you guys the at-grade crossing for Farm Road 99. We heard your feedback, and so we said, okay, we're going to make this safer, and we're going to provide a pedestrian access. So here you can kind of see where that underpass will go. So it'll continue on Elm, just past Farm Road 99, kind of as you're going up the hill. We'll actually cut into kind of the hillside, if you will, and provide a pedestrian access there. But ultimately this will just be for pedestrians. We don't have to worry about trying to carry water through there as well with the other, like we did on the other box culverts. And then as it comes through, we'll continue on the south side of Elm until it goes out to the battlefield. So with that, that's kind of an overview of kind of where we are today. Ultimately, we looked at trying to make the trail safer, by providing this pedestrian underpass. Also the trail in general will be safer just because we'll be able to get bicyclists that utilize Farm Road 182 to the battlefield and cycle around the battlefield. They'll be able to use an off-street trail system and then ultimately provide connectivity. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Andrew, would you mind turning that podium around? And now we're going to start with a part of the presentation of speaking for the trail. So anyone here wishing to speak for the trail, please approach the podium and state your name. Thank you for going first. I appreciate it. They say that speaking in front of people is almost as intimidating as snakes and dying. So where would you rank that right up there? Are you good? It's true. I read that somewhere.
Yeah, you got it covered.
Yeah. Sir, would you please state your name?
Brian Penny.
Sir, are you here to speak on for the trail?
For the trail, yes.
Please give us your thoughts, sir.
So my family is a part of the large cycling community in Republic and in Battlefield with some MS bike teams, Two Fries, Hope team. We've got 2 teenagers. There's really no way to safely get from east from Oakwood to ZZ with the way things exist now in the city, right? They are narrow roads with no shoulder. There's no sidewalk. There are blind hills. Cars drive fast. So really, and Wilson's Creek is a place where a lot of cyclists go train, where there's no way to safely ride your bike from the middle of Republic to Wilson's Creek to go around the trail. So adding this would give a way for my family and all the other cyclists to be able to get there. My daughter does not cycle to Wilson's Creek because she's intimidated by it. I'll ride, but a lot of cyclists will not, especially newer riders. So if there was a trail, it would be a safe way for us to get to Wilson's Creek. And then there are a lot of cyclists in Battlefield where we go ride with them. Well, most of the time, the only choice is to put your bike on the back of a truck and take it over there, because a lot of the cyclists are not comfortable going on the road in front of Wilson's Creek, where it's very narrow, very curvy, cars drive very fast, or go on Republic Road, M Highway. That's a terrible option. I would never ride my bike on that one. So this would at least give us an option for people to safely travel from the middle of Republic to Wilson's Creek, and from Wilson's Creek to Battlefield.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Who's next?
Hi, my name is Joe Strong. I'm from Springfield. I wanted to show up and talk about connectivity for a moment. It's not just connectivity from Republic to Wilson's Creek, but tying into the Green West Trail, which I'm very happy is already something that's under discussion. But individual segments are great, as long as you're okay with loading up your bicycle, driving your vehicle from place to place, doing your recreational activity, but you also kill any commuting doing that. I commute whenever the weather is appropriate, on whatever bike I choose to be that's appropriate in Springfield. I'm not saying that I'm looking for a job in Republic and that I'd be commuting on a bike doing that, but the ability to do recreational rides and do the longer rides. I don't know that if you're familiar with the local bike clubs, but like Two Fries, they post pretty much a weekly posting of the number of members that ride 100 miles. Hey, if you stop and look at the Greenways Trail, try to think about putting together a 100-mile bike ride. And so a loop that would run all the way down here, allow you to loop around Wilson's Creek and ride back, makes those kind of activities really accessible. We have a tendency to stop and buy things, food, drink, maybe you stop and have a whole meal, especially on a longer ride. And so you're enhancing your economic activities there also. But my primary thing that I wanted to key on is the connectivity. I think it's great that you're already considering it. And this puts you right up against Tal's Trailhead. I think it was mentioned like a 2-mile gap from the southern end of that run and what you're talking about. And it's not ever a thing of doing the whole thing at once. It's always building segments and connecting them. And this is a huge leap in that direction. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. Do we have anyone else here wishing to speak? Good evening.
Good evening.
Please state your name.
Carrie Harrison. I am from your neighboring town of Willard, Missouri. I just kind of wanted to come speak on behalf of what I have seen living in a community that has a fantastic trail system. We have the Frisco Highline Trail that starts in Springfield, trailheads in Willard, and then goes on to Ballward. Partial paved, partial gravel, hard pack. I actually own a business about 10 feet off of the Frisco Trail. Just what I have seen in the last couple of years, I've been there since 2018, what it does for our community, what it does for our kids, what it does for a safe passage for kids getting to and from school. Watching large groups of teachers and faculty that put running groups together that use that trail every single day, and the fact that it's safe. That's the biggest factor for me and being right off the trail is just the safety of it all. Cars, you don't have to worry about the cars, you don't have to worry about any of that. I've also seen, obviously, in the last 2 or 3 years with the rise of COVID, obviously, what it's done for families to have a place to come and get out and enjoy nature and do it safely. So I just wanted to give my 2 cents as far as a community. In Willard, we're very proud of our trail system. We're very grateful that it's there, and I think it would be a great asset for the City of Republic.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the trail? And the reason I ask it like that is because I've got one more person on my list that hasn't come up and talked, and I didn't want to cut them off. Right? They've changed their mind. All right. That is closing it for anyone wishing to speak in favor. We will now open it up for people that wish to speak against the trail. Please approach the podium and state your name. Oh, Mr. Lackaby, we knew it would be you. Come on up.
I definitely don't want it to only be me, of course. So I don't actually know where to start in addressing this. I could come up and just say the same things we've been telling you guys over and over and over again. Everybody here knows that we don't want the trail at all. The response you guys have given us is a better version of the trail on the same street. And I don't mean this disrespectfully. You guys know that, you should know anyway, that we love the city we live in. And we don't mean any disrespect in that, but the first time I ever addressed you guys, I was super nervous and am still nervous. I don't shake or get nervous. I preach, and it's not public speaking. I have a high amount of confidence in that. I just, I don't want to come across as disrespectful and not honoring who you guys are. In fact, Bishop Davidson to Randy McLaughlin to all of the leaders that we've talked about at the OTO, the first thing that they say is that you guys are good people, and none of us are saying that you're bad people. None of us are arguing whether or not you're good. That's not our argument. The argument is that we don't want a trail going across our property. I'd like to address these pros for the trail real quick, and then make a few additional comments after that. Those for the trail who are parts of bike teams and things like that, it's not true that they would use a trail that slows down vigorously when it gets into Republic. It's like driving a car up to a stop sign as you enter into the city. If they use it for training and those types of things, I know too many road bikers have been involved in it in the past in different ways to know that they don't use trails, they use road bikes. In fact, Sherry's right. Mostly it's families. Mostly it's people who do not ride bikes or are on bike teams. They don't wear those outfits and put their helmets on like that to go and ride on a nice, friendly trail. They don't do that. It's not even competitive to ride a bike on a trail. I also don't think it's a good reason because your bike team wants to ride its bike, that you get my property for that. I don't think that's fair. I didn't pay for you to come and ride on my property. My property that I bought is, well, he's the one that said it.
I understand. They addressed me. Would you please address me too?
Right. Well, he's the one that gets to ride on it. Does it not concern them? You guys, none of you raised your hands about riding bikes. I asked you if you rode bikes last time, and none of you raised your hands. So I know you guys aren't going to be riding your bikes on my land.
I do.
They are. So it's frustrating to us that a few citizens in a couple of bike clubs are going to tell us that we have to give up our property for that to happen. To Joe's point, I said this the last time. David, you are killing it as far as progress in this city. You're not going to convince me ever that a bike trail is why you're doing such a good job. That's crazy. Compare this Shuyler Creek to Amazon. I'm not going to sit here and think that a couple candy bars and a couple of bottled waters from the gas station is what's keeping our city so healthy. I hope that doesn't persuade you. Also, the man that said that he would like connectivity to the Greenway Trail for commuting immediately said that he will not be using the trail for commuting, that that's not how he commutes. So either he is or he isn't. He literally just said, it's a good idea for commuting. I will not be commuting on it. but it is a good idea for commuting. As far as safety goes, as far as loading your bike up and putting it on or in your vehicle, if you're serious about biking, you've got a good bike rack anyway. You're used to taking your bike somewhere. If this trail goes in and takes our land, they're still going to put a bike on the back of their car or in the back of their truck and go somewhere else to ride a bike eventually. It's not a hassle for them. That's part of their hobby. And we all count the cost when we do hobbies. When you do woodworking, you pay for the equipment. When you do all these things, when you do farming, when you buy chickens, when you do anything you want to do for fun, you count the cost and the time, energy, and money. And so I don't feel sorry for people who have to put a bike in their car to go and to ride their bike somewhere, because everyone does that. Those are my rebuttals to their arguments for the trail. And at the end of the day, the point that I'm trying to get across is that the trail should not go in because the residents who own the property are not for the trail. None of these people live on Farm 182. Their properties don't back up to where Shuyler Creek will be in the neighborhood as you come into the Republic City limits. And so I understand why they came to testify. The problem that they have, and whoever has who is pro-trail, is that we're pro-trail. We're excited about it. You also have to remember that people go and ride their bikes in different places and load them up so that they don't have to pay to ride their bike. We don't want to pay money to go into Wilson's Creek. If you want to do that, that's awesome. If you want to get a season pass, like I'm going to get a season pass, that's awesome. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's just not a good reason at all, because there's too many other places to ride their bikes. The other thing that I want to address is the misinformation that I found coming from this survey and its results, and other people will speak into this as well, but as Andrew Nelson came up, which, if you're wondering, I called Andrew Nelson and apologized to him the other day. Where's I called him the bulletproof jacket of the city council, because he's the one who's been shot at and hit and screamed at and yelled at, and you guys haven't. And so Andrew's just doing his job. And so he's kind of the front lines of the public conflict as far as that goes. And that led us to go to the state, that led us to go to the OTO, that led us to go to our Greene County commissioners, and every one of them have told us that the people sitting here on this council are the ones who are making this decision. Every one of them. None of you have told us that. You've all told us, well, you know, it's go talk to your commissioners, go talk to this person, go talk to this person. And we've gone and talked to those people. The results of this survey is not as strong as you guys would maybe think that it would be. If you give me a second to read this, I'm not repeating myself, and I know I'm speaking a lot, but I promise you I'm not going to be repetitive as far as this goes. On the survey that you all sent out, it says that the results are based on a sample of 725 residents of the city of Republic. A 6-page questionnaire, which is on the back of this, was mailed on May 4th to 3,000 randomly selected households in Republic. Residents were asked to return their completed questionnaire. So out of 3,000 residents, only 725 turned them back in, which shows a great disconcern for whatever it was that you guys were wanting back. Of those 725 residents, based on a sample of 725 residents, a total of 657 even completed and returned it. So it wasn't 725. Assuming a 95% mail delivery rate, the survey response rate was 23.1% of the people you sent a survey out to even responded. So we have 657 people. You have a 95% delivery rate, which means only 95% of the 100% that you did send out, the 3,000, only 95% of them, you guys accounted for lost mail and those types of things. So even less people initially received it. In saying that, when you go to page 8 and you compare the interpretation of the data, it says that there is an error margin of 3.5%. I'm assuming it says plus or negative. I'm assuming that is meaning that it's either 20% or 26%. Am I right in interpreting that? If 23% responded, I'm assuming only 20% or at the most 26% responded at all. If a response listed, for example, in the report is 60%, one can be 95% confident because of the lost mail, the true percentage is what it comes back at. Therefore, a survey, it says, if every household in Republic had participated in the survey, you can assume by these amount of people returning this that this percentage of the entire city, you guys know how surveys work. So 625 or however many people send it back, based on their response, you can say, okay, this many people would agree with this, basically. Those results still come back to only half of Republic being in favor of the things that they said they were in favor of, if you counted all of the citizens of Republic. Because that's what a survey does. It expands it to the max population. Am I wrong in saying that?
I don't do surveys, but I think
Well,
we get
somebody
your point.
did. So your numbers here say that 56.5, between 56.5 and 63.5% of people would be in favor of whatever they said they're in favor of here. Now, when you go to page 14 in the survey, this page says Republic Community Characteristics, 2018 to 2021. The most significant change in citizen perceptions about Republic throughout the entire survey involved the availability of affordable housing, not trails, shockingly. Positive perceptions fell from 72% in 2018 to 41% in the current survey. So that's what affordable housing looks like. Not your fault. COVID happened, all kinds of crazy stuff happened. I'm not passing blame there. Community characteristics, I don't have to read them all. When you get down to availability of paths and walking trails, there was only 71% in 2018. It dropped 5% to 66%. Now, you all might say that that is because they were discontent that there weren't enough trails, but that's not actually what the survey reads. When you go to page 18 in the survey, Republic City Governing Performance, 2018 to 2021. Citizen perceptions of local government performance in terms of managing growth, development, providing services efficiently, and working through critical issues were largely on par with those reported in 2018. However, the percentage of residents viewing city responsiveness to citizens in a positive light fell from 72% to 66%. And that's also mentioned here as far as growth and development goes. Then when you turn to page 24, this section is labeled Level of Interest in New Projects by the Parks and Recs Department. Residents were asked to rate their level of interest in 6 projects being considered by the Parks and Recs Department. The J.R. Martin Park Boulevard project garnered the most interest, which was 60%, very interested in that, which is not our trail, 30% somewhat interested. Followed by the Outdoor Adventures Brookline Park project, 50%. Is that the zip lines? Is that what that is? I heard something about zip lines.
No, I think that's the archery.
Dinosaur Park.
Dinosaur Park.
Sorry. I'm not laughing at you. That was funny. You said archery and then he said dinosaurs.
It's because you shoot at dinosaurs.
I did not see that coming
Seriously,
at all.
archery at dinosaurs.
I started with zip lines, to be
Yeah,
fair.
right.
So the remaining 3 projects had limited appeal, as those not interested exceeded those who were very interested. This was particularly true of the Indoor Athletic Training Center proposal, to which most of the people did actually say they wanted more indoor activity. In the survey, at the top of the chart in your survey, a lot of the residents that did actually turn back in a survey were more interested in another indoor pool at the aquatic center than they were anything else. Which is right here. Sorry, 60% for the Park Boulevard. Outdoor Adventures was 50. Aquatic Center expansion was 43. New Athletic Complex was 28. Community Center expansion was 26. Indoor athletic training was also 26%. Very interested in that. When you get to page 28, the top of this page says, what residents would most like to see changed or improved? Respondents completing the community opt-in survey were asked in an open-ended question to identify one aspect of Republic they would most like to see changed or improved. I'm assuming open-ended was fill in the blank. Is that what that means on the survey? So they 26% responded. Well, this has a plurality of respondents. 26% cited more entertainment and shopping opportunities. 17% mentioned improved city services. 13% wanted better traffic flow, and 12% said improvements to Republic's physical environment. Again, you might be able to squeeze in trails under Republic's physical environment, but I don't think that that's fully what they're talking about. When you read this survey, it's beautiful aesthetics like the new sign as you come into Republic. That's a wonderful use of Republic's dollars to say, hey, here's where you are, instead of what it used to be, which was a smaller, more rural type of town because of how Republic is booming. Again, these go down the charts of most interested and would most like to see changed and improved: city services, traffic flow, physical environment, housing, job opportunities, and then miscellaneous, and then 20% didn't even comment. When you make it to page 30, primary reason for moving to Republic. Among those who had moved to Republic, 93% of all respondents. The primary reasons for doing so were family and relatives living in or near Republic, 35%. Followed by the price of housing and land, 22%. Republic's small town atmosphere, 16%. And Republic schools, 14%. Republic's low crime rate and job opportunities in Republic were each mentioned by 4% of the respondents as the main reasons for moving to Republic. When you turn, and trails, you'll notice is not on there. Page 35. When you get to page 35, you come to a section which is the appendices. I think that's how you say that. Appendix A is other new, it's in quotations, other new projects or ideas for the Republic Parks and Recreation Department to consider. It goes through all of those top interests. So whatever you guys ask that they're most interested in, it does mention those things. When you get to page 35, about a third of the way down, it says walking paths and trails. Now, out of 600 and something, 6,500 people who sent surveys back in, and out of all of the people that talked about all of the things that they love about the city of Republic, there were two comments from walking paths and trails. Two people said all of this. I'm not throwing you guys under the bus. I know what misinformation looks like, and I know what leading people looks like as well. As I said, I'm a pastor. Our church ourselves is going to be looking at a building project in the future, and I can do two things. I can manipulate them and make them think that this is big vision and God's in it and He's going to help us pay for it, or I can be responsible steward, as the Bible calls me to be, and tell our people, is this necessary? Should we do it? And in consensus, we make that decision. Instead of everybody fulfilling some kind of big dream that the lead pastor has, we make that decision together. In saying that, I know what it looks like to mislead people. On the back of this, on Appendix A, other new projects to consider, you don't mention that only two people said this. You mentioned these wonderful comments here that they're the other new projects to consider. We want more walking trails, better connection to existing trails. That could have just been him that said it. Partnering with and connecting to Greenway trails in Springfield, trails similar to Ozark Greenways, bike trail to connect to Greenway. Two comments only said, I love walking parks, more walking trails and sidewalks, more walking or bike trails, more walking trails, better connection of existing trails, longer connected trails. There's a bunch more from those two comments. When you get down to bike trails, which is also what this trail is being called, you have 6 comments, 8 total out of all of the respondents. If you look at the survey, they left them a spot to fill in whatever they wanted to on it. Only 8 people did write things in there, according to this survey that you all sent out. Bike paths, walkways over Highway 60, so I guess they want a bridge over Highway 60. More bike paths, bike lanes or trails, lane markings in some areas are very poor. More bike lanes and walking paths, and it goes on. Pathway to Wilson's Creek Battlefield. So again, a handful of people that could have been in his bike club are in this survey telling us that we need to give up our land for this bike trail. I think it's an inappropriate view, and I'm not being malicious. I'm not saying that either that one or all of you did this. I do know that most of you want this trail. None of you have reached out to us and talked to us about being in opposition against this trail. In my organization, as a pastor, I make a lot of decisions, but I make it with consensus, and everybody in the room is not a yes man, and I'm not calling you yes men. David, she asked you a legitimate question in one of the city council meetings, and again, I'm not calling you to the mat or anything. Not only did you not answer it, but she specifically asked you, what are the rights of these citizens? And then you answered with the details that we just got from Olson and from Andrew. And so we know what your dream is because you wrote it in the Republic magazine for 2022 and what you're excited about. So we're finding out what you guys are all excited about through magazines that you're kind of publishing and putting out into the city of Republic. We're not finding out from you at all what side you're taking on this, and it is frustrating. I have a full-time job, and you have a full-time job too, but I don't have time. You guys have resources. When we look at who you're working with, you're working with the heads of OTO, you're working with our Greene County commissioners, you're working together. Some of you, this is your full-time gig. And you have a couple of rural citizens who own property who simply don't want you to take it for a trail that could go somewhere else. We asked our Greene County commissioners about this trail. We asked the Ozarks Trail organization, can this money be kept and used for something still amazing in our community? Every one of them said yes. They all told us you could use this for something else, that it doesn't have to take our land. Now we know you're willing to go under a street. Now we know that you can actually go down Hines because that's actually part of your plan. And now you can go under ZZ and then go to the high school and go to the War Museum. And so I'm disappointed that you're not listening to us. And then even in tonight's things, we see, are you supportive of the proposed trail alignment? And I see that you're not really, I don't feel like you guys are willing to do much about this as far as what we're wanting. We're not wanting a revised plan. We're wanting the trail. You have a vice president of a really good bank in Springfield, Missouri, wanting to move into your community. And because this trail is going in, they're seriously considering not doing it. So, because it's going to take up their land. And even worse, now it's going to swing into half of a football field into their land. So, as far as that goes, your 2040, I don't even know what you guys have now. There was a 2020 plan, then there was a 2030 plan, and then there's a 2040 plan.
Those are plans of other organizations.
Is it not Republic?
No, it's OCO, and then those are Greenways, Greene County.
So the reason I bring that up is you're all working together. It benefits you now to say that they're individual entities, but all of you are making the decisions to put the trail in.
Sir, we're not, I get it. I know you want a dialogue, but we're here to let you say your piece, not enter into a dialogue.
Okay, to my point, the fact that this is not a dialogue is ridiculous.
Okay.
You guys are going to say nothing back. You have your engineers on our road. You're paying money. You're paying tax dollars monies, not telling us whether or not you're going to put the trail in. Are you going to put the trail in on 182?
So here's the
It's a
thing.
yes or no.
I understand you want a yes or no, but I'm telling you, we're not entering into a dialogue because we want to hear what everybody has to say.
You
That's
know
the
what we
process.
have to say. The rest of the comments are against the trail.
We wanna
Watch
hear
this.
from
Raise
them.
your hand if you don't want it to go in. There's the rest of the comments, but you're not answering for it. Matt, you're not doing it. And we know why. This is the 2 hugs and a punch. I told you what 2 hugs and a punch is. You're doing politics.
So
Every one of you have told
Here's
me
the
you're
thing.
conservative. You have no idea what
Are
you're
you-
talking about when it comes
I'm
to this.
trying to give you a chance to talk
Yeah.
so that then I can listen
I'm so
and respond to you.
tired of talking.
Okay. That's hard to pick up on because you keep going.
Right. Comedy is a straw man. I'm still asking you to answer my question
No.
as to whether or not, because OTO's lead team are Greene County commissioners, guess who gets to make the decision as to whether this goes in or not?
So you want to have a conversation?
Yes, I do.
Great.
That would be
Here's
wonderful.
the thing. You came on November 30th
Mm-hmm.
and you threw a punch. You threw a punch at me. You talk about 2 hugs and a punch.
It was
You
logic. Yeah, I didn't
No,
hug you
sir.
at all.
No, sir. Let me talk.
Yeah.
All right? You want to have a conversation? We'll have a conversation. You came on November 30th, 2021 with a group of people and threw a punch right at our mouths. And you said, you're taking our land. This is wrong. You're taking our land.
I didn't talk like that.
Well, that's how I felt. Just like you feel, that's how I felt. So I said, sir, I don't know what you're talking about. So let me look into it. What did you do? You came back on November 30th, December 14th, January 4th. You kept coming back, and I said, sir, it's the holidays. We're getting a new legal counsel. Let me look into it, because I don't know what you're talking about, because you just came in and you hit me. And you say 2 hugs and a punch, but you hit me in the mouth, and I didn't know what in the world you were talking about. Are we taking land? That's not right. We can't go take land. Well, we dug into it, and I became very educated on this, because what we did was, I had every single word, you and everybody else that came in and talked, transcribed, and we looked into it, we dug into it. And sir, this isn't a 3 months ago we decided to go take your land because we really want to get to Wilson's Creek. That's not what it is. What it is we discovered something that goes back to 2004.
Yep.
And you can look at a survey and you can pick out numbers, and I can look at a survey and I can pick out numbers, and every person in this room knows that we can make a compelling argument based on numbers for either side. That's what they do on national media every
What was the
single-
survey for?
I'm talking. I gave you a chance. Sir,
It's your survey. I didn't survey anybody, and then you manipulated it on the back.
So
I didn't manipulate anything. I didn't cast a good picture. I read your pages to you.
I understand.
You don't understand because you just accused me of trying to manipulate the room, and I'm telling you there are landowners here who tell you we don't want to give up our property for a trail when we know you're going down Hines. You're circling around. You're going down Hines anyway. You're willing to go under. You've got $2.2 million, which, if you're wondering, the OTO told us that you guys said this was going in for a completely different reason and that Republic was, the citizens of Republic were for it.
Sir, you
And
said
that's
you
not
want to have
true.
a conversation, but you're not letting me address the issues.
Okay, well, you're telling me that I was manipulating a room full of people by your survey. All I did was show you that you didn't even say how many people said this when 2 people said it.
Let me know when it's my turn.
You're a lawyer, dude. You know better.
No, I'm a lawyer. I'm trained to listen, and I've listened to what you've said, and I'm trying to have a conversation with you.
Right.
You're not allowing me to do it.
What?
So we've got a room of, how many people? Raise your hands that are against it. Raise your hands that are against it. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20.
Raise your hand if you're on staff for the city or some organization working with the trail. Anybody? Oh, yeah. Anybody who works for Republic or is
So, you see,
contracted out to them.
this is the part that I was talking about, that you're
Yeah.
not letting me talk. You see, I'm trying to let everybody in here have a chance to have a conversation about this. But instead, you and I are engaged in dialogue. What the plan was to have the people talk for, the people talk against, and then we talk about what we found out. You're not allowing that to happen.
Okay.
So I would like the other people in this room that have something else to say, like trees
Lisa.
in their yard that are sentimental to them. I want the opportunity for other people to have that conversation. But we're not getting to that yet. So do you want to have this now, or do you want to have it at the end? Once
With
everybody
all
has-
due respect, if you move on to talking about trees and fence lines, the trail is still there.
Right.
If you move on to talking about whether or not she gets to keep her trees, if you move the trail, everyone keeps their trees. Do you understand how inappropriate the rest of the conversations are? If you cancel the trail down 182, we don't have to talk about trees and fence lines and eminent domain and all of those things. If you keep the trail off of our property that we purchased and even agreed to easement, not eminent domain and the taking of more property. We agreed to easement when we bought our property. Not only this is an abuse of easement, it is an abuse of eminent domain because it's for recreational purposes. And the reason you went through the transportation is because it would be labeled as transportation and not recreation, and that is what the grant is for, transportation.
So your strategy here is to continue to talk until we say you're right.
I answered your tree question.
Thank you.
That's it.
So I understand that you do not want the trail. I absolutely do understand that. The more that we've dug into this, we've realized that the citizens do want it. I get that you don't want the trail, and that you can look at a study and
No
say,
one wants it. They want shopping and entertainment. They want shopping and entertainment, and you're 10 people who are in favor of it.
Sir, with all due respect, you've got to stop interrupting. I'm sorry, but I can't. All of these council members and the city administrator and the mayor of this city have given you now 30 minutes. 30 minutes.
Well,
to
they were
stand
giving
here.
me 3
No,
minutes
don't
each
interrupt
time.
me either.
Yeah.
30 minutes to stand here
Mm-hmm.
and respectfully address the people in this room.
Yeah.
So I'm going to respectfully ask that you please stop interrupting people.
I'm not calling names, and I'm not tearing anyone
you saying
down.
you don't call names and then immediately
You
calling
are.
names.
What did I
doesn't
call
actually
you? What
work.
did I call you?
Please stop interrupting people.
I'm telling
sir.
you about this. Tell me, listen, you can't, let me give you an example. Here's an example. No, I can't give you that example. There's a pastor in Republic who spent about an hour preaching about discipleship and leading these people to the Lord and all of these things, and he gets to the application at the end. How's the church supposed to respond to it? Giving to the building fund. It's look over here while we're doing this. This meeting, I just don't want it to be that. You just said that I was calling you names. If I was actually calling you names, tell me what I was calling you.
So-
All I'm asking you to do is to not give us the 2 hugs and a punch. That's it.
Thank you.
Can I
Mr.
bring
Camp-
some peace to this situation?
Please.
Please.
Okay. I'm a 9 on the Enneagram, so I'm a peacemaker. I get what you're saying. Actually, I wrote it out a while ago. I'm very passionate. I'm a 3rd generation daughter of a dairy farmer, so I get the importance of land. I get when you own land and you live outside city limits, there's a reason why you do so. It's your heritage, it's your privacy, it's a lot of people, it's their living, it's their source of that. So I empathize deeply with where you're at, and I'm still trying to understand the concept of when citizens want something and they vote on something, and the idea of that requiring us taking something from somebody in the right and wrong of that. And and to speak on behalf of the city council, a lot of us are new to this. We're very new members, so we are just entering this a little blindsided ourselves. So firstly, our staff is amazing. We have the most amazing council. Our leadership is impeccable, and their integrity is top-notch. So I just want you guys to know, I know this is a frustrating situation, and as the city grows, man, growing comes with its burdens and blessings, and trying to navigate that, the tension of growth, is so complicated, and it's not easy. And I know Andrew loses sleep, and I know he gets stressed out. He does take all the bullets for us, because as we grow, it is coming with these challenging times and trying to decipher right and wrong. In my common sense mind, I'll just read what I wrote as I was just sitting. Just so you guys know, we're not just sitting here listening like bumps on a log, you know, I honestly don't know what happens after this. I don't know, once we listen to all the thoughts and the opinions, where we go from here. I don't have the privilege to that information, to be honest with you. Because, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it
Councilmember
comes.
Mitchell, would you like to know what happens next?
I was going to actually ask that.
Mr. Cameron, why don't we talk about what happens next?
Yeah.
So, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I was prepared to give because the question has been asked, what happens next at every meeting? So writing that down. So researching how the grant was authorized. So I have answers to all the questions, basically from the meetings of what those were. So I want to walk through it. So just to be clear on and I will say the citizen survey is not even a part of that overall discussion. It was a reference, and it appears to have gotten into the muddiness of it. But looking at the overall history of the city, so the citizens have talked about this trail since 2004, regardless if it's in this survey or not. So there's been public hearings, and the last one was in 2015. So in 2017, we ran the capital improvement sales tax to the voters. You've wanted, just in overall, not just this, but the gateway sign, you wanted a gateway sign, but the Shuyler Creek Trail was included as part of how do you fund this trail, because in those public discussions, it's always been, well, how do we fund it? And to be clear, on the history of the existing Shuyler Creek Trail, there were actually properties on some of the deeds actually Stony Creek. There is actually on some of the deeds, the trail is on there. So it was always intended for that trail to go through there. So intention or not, survey or not. So in 2017, the voters were presented with the trail as part of the overall ballot. So I'm not gonna, like, to your point, we don't have to embellish it, it was just included. So number one, I don't have the right legally to go back to the voters and say I can disregard the Shuyler Creek Trail because it is listed. So if I did that and I told the voters we're gonna do the trail, I don't have the legal authority to say, hey, we're gonna dismiss that project now because it was included in the overall language that went to the voters. So that's the first piece. To clarify the Greene County portion of it, so I have a letter that I have found from 2019 from Greene County stating that they would participate in securing the right-of-way and the easement of that trail for their in-kind contribution, which this all started with the Wilsons Creek Battlefield roundabout after 2 deaths. So it was originally started, so we have a letter from the Wilsons Creek leadership requesting that the trail go through. Where the OTO comes into play is the OTO is not like we're a partner to the OTO. So the OTO represents the Ozark Transportation Organization. So the OTO, we're a member with every other city in Southwest Missouri and Greene County. And at that time, the presiding commissioner was the chairman of the OTO, and that board voted to give those funds to Republic to build that trail. So another legislative body in public hearing voted to allocate the funds to the city. Then in 2020, our board voted by ordinance, 2 separate ordinances, which would require 4 readings. It became law. So once that became law, it was not about whether the trail was going in, it's whether we had to follow the alignment of the grant application, which was the first meeting you all attended. And really, like we said, was we have to procure that right away, we have to have the public hearing. And once it became law, there is no other action that's taken from this body. That's the answer that you're looking for, that you asked me for, or asking for.
Okay, so I guess, and correct me if I'm wrong, it became a law, and then you asked the people, or told us that it was going to happen.
So, great question. So, it became a law to require to accept the funds back in 2020. As part of the requirements through federal highway, they require public hearings to do that. They could have just said it goes in, you're getting a notification of it, Greene County's going to send their acquisition folks out there. Rusty, I appreciate you being here tonight. Send their acquisition folks to be there.
Rusty voted against the $2.2 million, by the way.
Sorry, who did?
Rusty.
Voted against the 2.2?
Against the money for the trail. Keep going, sorry.
I don't recall. I don't recall the vote.
Yeah. And that was another question real quick, just before you go into the next part is, we don't get to vote on that as county. The city voted on something that they don't actually, I can't even vote for mayor. I can't even run for mayor. But my land is being used, our land. Actually, if you want to know, the real question you should be asking, Matthew, is why I'm so upset. It's not even on my land anymore. It's off my land. I'm upset because if I didn't move in last year and build my house on Farm Road 99 and 182, you guys would have just put it in without any of the elderly and the rural residents knowing what to do and how to do it. We don't have any vote, and so we're literally told that Greene County made that decision for us, and we can't even vote on whether or not we like it or not. You're literally just like, that's good land, we'll use it.
Mr. Mayor, so again, that alignment and that discussion of that trail, we did not decide years ago. It was presented, it's moved on, and what was lacking in that was a funding mechanism. So when we presented to the voters what they wanted to consider, and it was discussed at hearings, do we want to include those things? All of those things were considered. This board cannot undo the vote of that public hearing of that capital improvement.
I understand.
So I just want to be respectful that when you suggest that in my report, I'm only reporting of what the voters suggested, because there was many people that did not like the sign coming into the Republic. I'm like, I'm just doing and executing what those voters. Otherwise, if I don't do that, I'm violating the state statute regarding those funds. And that's the same way I have to proceed forward with that grant because it's a law of this city that was voted upon. And it's not something like we're just, and I could see and understand why that would, to you, appear that we didn't have a chance to say that. But once it became that law, it sent a message, and we've already spent $160,000 into that law that they're already building that trail and that roundabout all the way out to the high school. But that's the answer to your question, respectfully, that you've looked for from the day one. I believe it's the lacrosse coach also asked what would be the next step. That step was taken in 2020 when they passed those two laws.
The roundabout can go in without the trail, correct?
Yes, why I referenced the roundabout, I'm sorry, was in the letter, which I have, and I'll provide that to you as well. In our research was, where did this all initiate, where it got brought back up, and why did the trail funds even become available, and why did the OTO, as a collective body, I'm not using the OTO as leverage, that is a group that has been established to administrate federal highway and transportation funds. Yeah. So how we can get funding for 174 and 60 or the roundabout, it has to go through that group, and there's a group of mayors and administrators, county officials that vote on how those funds are allocated. And that's how it was provided. But where that started was after the second death, I believe, at the Wilson's Creek petitioned MoDOT to create the roundabout. Their concern as part of that design was pedestrian crossings coming from that farm road, which initiated the long-range plan that had been established and discussed and voted on as a region. So I want to be clear. The City of Republic did not just vote or identify that trail extension. That was a regional vote as part of this overall group that we're all a member of. So that is a legislative body. That's just not a group of people that got together and said they wanted to. I just want to be clear, because I know if you've done your research, OTO is a publicly governed and their meetings are public records. Why the trail got brought up back in 19 and why the letter of support from Wilson's Creek Battlefield for the trail came about, because they're a supporter of it, MoDOT was a supporter, and Greene County wrote a letter of support offering to provide the right-of-way. So there were a lot of partners that said we need to address that section. Yeah. It wasn't just this group in this room.
And to be fair, we're agreeing with you that government leadership from Greenways to MoDOT to City Council to whatever, we're agreeing that you guys are all in agreement for it. What we're saying is even when it gets to the citizen, the numbers don't add up in your survey. I didn't do the survey. I was actually told to go and do a survey, but I don't have survey capacity. I'm not going to stand outside Walmart and try and get some signatures.
Yeah.
So according to your survey, we know you know about it, and we know that all of you are working together on it. I didn't know that it was so far. I guess my thing is you shouldn't have kept saying yes until there was no turning back without asking the people who are going to cough up the land and property for it. But what I'm saying is we didn't have a vote in it. The residents didn't have a vote in it because we were Greene County. Our Greene County commissioners made that decision for us, I guess. It cost the citizens of Republic nothing. It cost them nothing. And even in studying eminent domain, the payout for our land is going to be minimal. It's not going to be what it's worth, and it's discouraging. I'm not trying to not be a peacemaker. I'm not trying to be argumentative, and I hope you're recording this because I'm going on record saying I'm not calling you guys names. In fact, the only name I called you was job well done, and we love you as a leadership. What we're asking you to do is to consider, does it have to go down 182? Can it go down Hines Roads? Is that vision and exciting? One of our, he showed me something tonight that part of the way that you guys have made the trail attractive is talked about its forestry and its rural appeal. And it's like, yeah, we bought that. We love that. We know it's forestry and its rural appeal. And so we're asking you to not just consider, to just get your next meeting be, can we move the trail from 182? The roundabout can still go in. I know that's true. And I'm in agreement on that. It's hard to determine when and how to turn left when you're going down to MM. I understand that. Or M. Nobody in here is against the roundabout. What we're telling you is we don't see how the trail fits into this other than you've promised it and now you have to keep your promise. But you promised it with borrowed land. That's our argument. It's not that you guys are doing anything bad. We asked the OTO and the Greene County Commissioners, is there other amazing projects they could spend this on? Yes. They said that. And that's all we're asking is that you consider taking the funds and using it for some other way to improve Republic, even down another route other than Farm 182. I'll let the other people talk.
Good evening. Here we are again.
Here we are.
Lisa Roller, 6618 West Farm Road, 182, Republic. Okay, so following up on what Michael just ended with and what you shared with us, thank you for sharing and clarifying all of that. I happened to be on Zoom with the OTO last week, okay? And Mr. Garrett was there. I don't really know all of the members because that was the first Zoom meeting I had had with OTO. So in the middle of the meeting, I had asked at some point in time, you know, who was the final factor, the final person that votes on this trail extension from Republic to outside city limits to Wilson Creek Battlefield Park, because we borderline the maintenance buildings to the park, okay? And Sarah said, well, she paused for about 15 seconds, and this was after she said, well, the main vote, the promising vote, the ending vote is with you council people. You guys have the end vote on this trail coming outside city limits. And I said, well, how does that work then for us outside city limits in the county when it's you guys making the decision for all the citizens, but yet we're not able to vote inside city limits? Our county commissioners, Bob Dixon, the gentleman that opened up with prayer and Pledge of Allegiance at the last meeting on January 4th, we all came into a conclusion we'd have this big meeting and that you would try to invite the commissioner, Bob Dixon, and have him here. And then come to find out, we get this letter stating, well, we're going to have this meeting tonight on the 22nd. And I happened to have lunch at the church with Bob Dixon a week and a half ago and presented him with that letter and asked him, were you invited to this meeting? Are you going to be here to be our voice for outside the county? Well, I knew nothing about it. I wasn't invited. And, you know, I'm going to be out of town. So there was that voice for us. And then we have Rusty McLaughlin. Of course, Michael has spoken with him several times. My concern, so Sarah calls me back today at 1 o'clock from OTO, and we talked for about an hour. And Sarah made me well aware that, yes, you guys have the final vote, that this money was, this went all the way back to June or July. Don't quote me on the month because I don't really remember the conversation as far as June or July. 22nd of 2017 is when all of this went in motion. This is before Amazon come in, because that was hush-hush for 2 years because Amazon told the city of Republic that they shouldn't say anything to constituents because they wouldn't come here if that had happened. So the money started allocating 2017. My question to the OTO today was, how come we were not privy to the funding, which is our taxpayers' hard-earned money, back then, because you're saying that this all allocated, that, you know, this was funding that people that got together in these communities and you're voting, that this all was decided on for the people of city limits of Republic. Well, how is that fair to us out here in the county that you guys are able to make that decision and we had no priviness to these public hearings that you were talking about, sir? The public hearings that you said happened, we were never privy. We didn't get a survey. We didn't get a letter to be invited to the council meetings and the public hearings. What was there, just a sign put up in a corner somewhere that you drive by and you're supposed to see that to know that there was public meetings? Because I can guarantee you, half of these people, or probably most of these people in this room, would have showed up to your hearings and we'd have had something to say about where this money should go. Instead of all of a sudden we get, and that was another thing too, Sarah said that fell under the Sunshine Law today. She said absolutely fell under the Sunshine Law, that we did not get notified when this funding came out. We did not get a chance to vote on where our taxpayer money went to, and we get privy to this as of November 21st of 2021, about a year and a half before you guys are starting your construction. Now we're privy to all this. So it does fall back to you guys. And OTO said that there's nothing they can do as far as the grant money because it's already been approved. And I said, well, then what happens to this money if we fight this trail and it doesn't go through? She said it's up to you all, that funds would have to be returned to the federal government, or that there was plenty of other projects that she was privy to, and so was Rusty McLaughlin, that this money could be verged to another project that would help improve Republic, or, you know, with Amazon coming in and we're growing together, it could go to another project and this trail would not have to go in. And sir, the wrecks that you were talking about on ZZ Highway for the roundabout, we've saw both of them, okay? We lived right there. And as far as this trail staying on 182, Andy, you're here tonight, aren't you? From OTO? There you are. Sarah shared the conversation with Andy today. I'm under the impression that this trail does not have to stay on 182, that she was going to speak with Andy and to the committee to see if they could get it rerouted to Hines or 174. Because your bigger picture is you're going to have roundabouts going all the way down ZZ Highway. So why, common sense wise, why wouldn't we put it down 174 to have it right there to go through a roundabout there, and you'd be right across the street from the school? So there is a chance for this trail to be moved to another farm road, whether it be Hines to 178 or 174. And that's where all the kids are. I shared that with Sarah today. She said, well, you know what? Let me get with Andy. Let's see what we can do to get this rerouted. Because in my opinion, there's kids that are on skateboards, that's on their bikes, they walk their strollers, they ride their bicycles. I mean, you're already wasting funding for sidewalks. So why not forget the sidewalks? Put your 10-foot bike trail in, it's right by the park. I mean, Michael went down to the park over the weekend, sat there, and we watched people in the community come and share the park and ride their bikes and walk the trail. I mean, so there is options to move this. It doesn't have to stay on 182. Your roundabout can still go in for safety purposes, but if in your map and in your revised plan, Garrett, that you shared me with an email before I came tonight, that you're taking the trail to the roundabout, but see, they're not connecting it to Wilson Creek Battlefield Park. That's what everybody's betraying, that you're connecting this to the federal park. You're absolutely not, because I've talked to the